Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our wrap up of the 20th anniversary of Marvel Knights Spider-Man with JR. Spider
Oh,
History Time. We've
oh,
reviewed 12 issues. We're going about to review 12 issues tonight. You
oh,
right?
my heart can't take much more of this excitement. It's just been relentless fights and Aunt May kidnapped and Spider-Man beaten to a pulp and under as much stress as he's ever been under, and a new Venom. And now the mysterious kidnapper reveals himself, or is going to reveal himself, and we're going to find out what this is all about. It's. I may have to get it. I hope I have a defibrillator nearby because I may need it. Too much excitement.
I remember liking this story a lot back in the day. I've forgotten bits and pieces of it, but this quality of art and writing is sorely missed.
Yeah, at the end, I mean, I'll kind of get into it at the end, but it has a lot of faults, and I compare it to the first two Orsi and Kurtzman Star Trek movies, the reboot, because a lot of classic fans did not, and I didn't have a trouble with the reboot, other than J.J. Abrams insisting on the stupid ass mystery box and completely botching Cumberbatch as Khan, completely botching that. Yeah. But I liked the approach they took, but I thought of that because those stories just like didn't make a rat's ass worth of sense. Instantaneous beaming or warp beam, it was just stuff that was getting back past science fiction and kind of getting into science stupidity, but they were still fun to watch anyway. So that's kind of what I thought this was. This story has problems, but it was a hell of a lot of fun to read.
So, quote unquote, we've been on the air for 3 months. This is our December Spider History. We're wrapping up the year for our audio listeners, that is. Also, we're streaming to Instagram right now. I added Instagram, so the Instagram viewers, hello, how are you? Feel free to chat it up with us. JR, this is issue number 9, right? Issue number 9.
Yes.
Mark Miller, Terry Dodson, Rachel Dodson again.
Mm-hmm.
Floating heads of villains here, it looks almost like.
Yep. And the story opens with a flashback many years ago in Forest Hills. And a 13-year-old Peter Parker is silently sobbing, and Uncle Ben stops by to say, "Hey, what's wrong, Petey?" Of course, Peter, is Flash picking on you? No, he's picking on somebody else. And Is Liz teasing you? No, actually, Liz wants to actually go with us to Oscorp, the Oscorp Science Exhibition. And, so what's wrong? And Peter he doesn't want to say it at first. Oh, it's too stupid. It's too dumb. And then, he admits what's bothering him is that he knows that Ben and May are considerably older than the other kids' parents. And that once, when those kids' parents become the age that Ben and May are now, Ben and May you'll be dead. And you'll be dead and you'll be gone and I'll be alone again. And Ben says, that ain't going to happen. We're buddies. We stick together. And besides, you think I'd let my little brother down? And just, lovable old coot. I really like this conversation. It's one I could see myself having with my son. However, not one I could see having with my own father. My own father was not quite as cuddly as this. But now I thought it was just a very good scene. It's hard to say. Father and son, Ben picks him up.
About the scene. I like it. And I like the shadows here.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Ben says, Peter says, I can't tell you what's wrong. It's too stupid. And Ben says, hey, buddies don't keep secrets from each other. And that's what Spencer and I we were each other's best buddy, back when he was little, until he became a man and he hated my guts. But I was just very touched by this scene. But anyway, so then then we shift more into the misery of Spider-Man's existence when the Green Goblin killed Gwen, and then we get floating heads.
Look at that.
Look at that. Norman in the old costume, kind of an homage to the showing the old costume.
Yeah. And there's some big floating heads of Gelt. Look at that.
This is the floating heads of guilt of all floating heads of guilt.
Oh,
And go up to Gwen Stacy again.
yeah.
Who looks like Felicia, looks a little bit like Mary Jane.
Her
It's
ears look like Spock.
Spock ears. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Jean DeWolf doesn't look like Jean DeWolf either. That's not that's a little bit too young for Jean DeWolf. And I don't even know.
Oh.
I recognize Harry and Aunt May, and I
Who's
don't recognize.
this?
That is Bluebird, remember?
Oh, from Untold Tales?
From Untold Tales.
Okay. Who's this down here?
I do not know. Oh, wait, I don't, he mentions like Bennett Brandt and Frederick Foswell as people who died. The blonde looks a little bit like Bennett Brandt. However, that does not look like Frederick Foswell.
Oh, these are all dead people. Okay.
Yeah, they're all supposedly dead people. Yeah. So, Harry looks like, you can tell Harry and Aunt May and Gwen and Captain Stacy, but you have to be told who the others are because they're not immediately identifiable. But anyway, floating heads of guilt, people who've died on my watch.
Right.
And
hey,
so
also
now,
real quick, there's chat going on Instagram. StreamYard doesn't let Instagram do the comments, so go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spider-Man crawlspace, and then you can enter the chat through the YouTube thing, and then I'll pop you up on the screen. Okay. So I got a Chris Martin 4677. You're on Patreon, so yes, I see you over on Instagram. But come over to the YouTube channel. You can chat in real time with us. So, all right, sorry, JR, go ahead.
Gary and the Frozen, thank you. But one of the things about being a parent,
lucky to have a dad like you.
I've made a lot of mistakes. And that's one reason. Again, that's one reason I've always liked Norman Osborn, always liked the Green Goblin. But when I got older and had my own son, I kind of identified with it even more, because I've been both Harry and Norman. Harry, who desperately wants his father's approval, but whose father is unapproachable a lot of times. That was my father. But then, having a son of my own, and of course, Norman, I'm not Norman Osborn, thank goodness. But, Norman loved his son, but he did not have a clue how to show it, how to really, truly show it. And it showed up and he wound up, psychologically abusing him, and when Norman loses, quote unquote, his sins, you can see how much it grieves him, how poorly he treated Harry. It truly grieves him. So that's kind of the yin and yang. I mean, of being a parent, you just, in a way, you just hope your kids survive your mistakes. And if they do, it's a miracle. It's a miracle that they turn out good, because we're just doing the best we can, and sometimes that's just not very good. But anyway, back to Spider-Man and the Last Stand. So Peter, anyway, at the last issue, the caller said, "Meet me for lunch tomorrow." So Peter comes down, meets him, and Peter doesn't recognize him at first. Who are you? And are you kidding? You don't recognize me? I'm Matt Gargan, the Scorpion.
Yeah.
Which, and he admits, like, oh, I thought you'd figure it out because I thought you'd recognize my voice. Like, yeah, I figured he would have. And it's like, so why is he hanging upside down? I mean, it's like,
oh yeah, what?
Theoretically, if he were in a scorpion costume with his scorpion tail, he could do that, but he wouldn't. I mean, that wasn't Gargan. Gargan didn't do that,
Is a fake. What do they call those? Not a breadcrumb, but a fake.
It's
red herring. It's a fake red herring.
It wasn't. It's not quite as bad as Slot, but it is very Slot-like. Where you go, no, you see who it is, and you go, no.
The pieces don't add up. Yeah.
None of the clues led to this. It's like you should go. It should be like The Sixth Sense. Remember The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis?
Oh yeah, then you rewind and watch. Oh, okay. Didn't interact with them. Yeah.
Now, if you'd seen Grown Up in the Twilight Zone like I did, I knew exactly when I saw the trailer when Haley Joel Osment said, "I see dead people," and he's looking, and then it's like, Bruce Willis is dead. His character, because he sees him, but again, that's because I watched all those Twilight Zone episodes. Yeah. But if but otherwise, if you're watching a movie cold, you don't know he's dead. really. And it's very clever that, they don't show that he's not really where people aren't really seeing. Then you watch it again after knowing, and it all makes sense. Of course he's dead, and you see all the tricks that Shyamalan plays, which, and I know he's kind of become a joke nowadays, but that first movie, he shows all the little subtle tricks that made you think that Bruce Willis was alive, but then you realize he really wasn't, because the people you thought he was with didn't see him. That's a good mystery, because the clues then all line up. But this is just like, again, this is just not a good mystery, because the clues don't line up. Nothing leads you to, oh yeah, I can see it. But anyway, I thought it was a good choice. And Tommy Bagley, I saw, ask a question. You were waiting for an explanation of why Norman thought Gargan was worthy of divulging the secret to. And I got a theory on that, but basically, Peter basically said, tells Gargan he's going to kill him, if he doesn't, if he doesn't tell him where Aunt May is. And, and Gargan says, yeah, right. You ain't going to do a thing. And he says, this is Norman. What does he say? It's,
Here, I got you. You really think you're in any position to make demands here, buddy? Is this it? What you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was getting lost. I was getting lost because Gargan makes a reveal that I thought it already happened, but it hadn't. Okay. So anyway, so Gargan pretty well is able to, stop Peter from, he plays the, may you'll be dead card if you don't behave and do what we want you to. So Peter decides to, all right, follow along. And anyway, so as they're sitting down and having lunch, Peter says, you're a B-list villain. Basically, he says what we're all thinking. You're a B-list villain. You're not that smart. You're not smart enough to be a mastermind, the brains behind all of this. Mm-hmm. And Gargan says, well, this is Norman Osborn's masterpiece, The Green Goblin's Revenge. And it was, and again, it's like the guy we thought it was too obvious to be. It's him. And not only that, but he actually gave the plot away in issue number 2. When he said, suppose I told somebody, and they, he did. He told the whole story. So basically he just, Gargan says that, you, Norman, as long as, you had your thing going on, but when you expose Norman and put him in jail, the whole kid gloves are off. And, and this is where I was talking about earlier, last month, where I don't think Norman would have actually done this. Because basically what he says is, Norman told me that if you ever took him down, if you ever had him arrested or exposed him, the game you're playing goes up a notch. And he says, and then Gargan says, come on, you get a costume. He gets a costume. He kills your unborn child. You kill his son. Now, yeah. Now
he kills your unborn child.
Now, which I don't believe Norman did. Norman did not do that. Norman would not do that. But I can see where Norman would want people to believe he did that. But if you remember, and it's funny because this was the only, almost again, the baby was another.
The baby was almost off limits as much as the Clone Saga.
Ben Reilly, even more so. I think the only mentions of the baby after the Clone Saga. But I should say before the reboot, because it was still talked about just before the reboot, because like Nate Gray was reading Peter's mind, said, I'm sorry about the baby, shut up, Nate, not now. But after the reboot, the baby, I think, was only mentioned twice. This, and then in Death in the Family, when Norman talked about and told Peter of all the people he'd failed, including your unborn child. But
Death in the Family, is that ASM 400?
No, that's actually, I think it is. I think it's the same title.
Okay.
I think it is. I think it is the same title.
What's Death in the Family?
The Death in the Family I was referring to was the Paul Jenkins Green Goblin story in Peter Parker Spider-Man, which is one of a classic Green Goblin story. Unfortunately, it had Humberto Ramos art.
I knew you were going to say that.
Story. Yeah. But anyway, so if you actually go back and read Revelations, they give, Mary Jane says, "Why isn't the baby crying?" And the doctor says, "I'm so sorry." And you see Norman's hench person, Allison Mongrain, walk out with something. And then she meets Norman at the dock. And Norman says, "I'm sure you'll make sure that it's never seen again." Now, and I don't. So to me, that implies the baby was alive. The baby was alive.
Don't you think that if Norman did kill the kid, he'd brag about it?
Well, yeah. Well, yes. Kind of like when he banged Gwen. No, actually, it turned out. Actually, it turned out he didn't, because people always said, "Well, if Norman had sex with Gwen, why didn't he rub it in Peter's face?" And I said, "When did Norman do this? Norman did this when he was Norman Osborn, not the Green Goblin. He did this when he was having migraines. He did this when he was worried about Harry. He was at an emotional low point when he did this." And that's one reason Gwen was drawn to him. Well, theoretically, it was all tricked by Mysterio, but because Norman was extremely vulnerable at that time. So for Norman to rub it in Peter's face, he basically have to face up the fact that he did something stupid because he was vulnerable and weak, and he didn't want to do that. But anyway,
and real quick, and Tommy's talking about when Luke Cage put Norman in jail. That was the biggest misstep in the Norman.
Oh yeah, like I said, if you read the Pulse #5, it's Cage that flattens Norman and puts him down. And and Spider-Man just sits there like stunned. It's like, no, only one person should take down Norman: Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Nobody else. But, Bendis, Luke Cage was one of his prized characters, his favorite character. So Luke got the good moments, But anyway, so no, in fact, I think Norman Osborn would be too smart. Why would you kill? First of all, this is probably going to grow up to be a superpowered child. All right.
Oh, corrupt it. Like Harry.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's smart.
Remember the Zorro movie with Anthony Hopkins and Tony I
didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Antonio Banderas. Well, anyway, what happens is the movie starts out. Anthony Hopkins is actually Zorro, okay, and his arch enemy, and he has I forget what Zorro's real name was, but Anthony Hopkins' character is the Zorro. And he's married and he has a baby girl. But his arch enemy finds out who Zorro is, and he doesn't kill him, but he has him thrown in prison, and he kills the mother, and he raises Zorro's child as his own. All those years.
That's the long game.
That is the long game.
That's the long game.
That is the ultimate revenge.
That's what Norman would do. Yeah.
And actually,
you might just be giving a future Spider-Man writer a story on that one.
Actually, I did. Well, not but somebody who was writing fan fiction.
Okay.
Wrote me and asked me if they could use that idea that Norman raised the child and used it against Peter. And it turns out that it was a pretty decent story.
Editorial would never let that get out.
No. But
however,
would never go that far in the future.
In the recent Spider-Woman book, she had a kid. The villains kidnapped him when he was a toddler and then aged him up and then fought Spider-Man.
No, I don't remember.
And if you go back, this is essentially the storyline of Sins Past, with Gwen's kids fighting Peter. I mean, it's the same kind of story.
That sounds stupid, but it was in this. I'm assuming it was a woman, young lady, but she asked me for, I said, yeah, sure, great. I mean, I said, all I ask is that you say this was inspired by J.R. Fettinger. That's all I ask, and she did. But it was she had turned, basically Norman raised her, then gave her a costume, put her. But at the end, Norman sacrificed his life for her because ultimately he loved her. He did think of her as his child, and he died saving her. But because she always thought of Norman as her father, that she hated Spider-Man, and therefore she was going to be Spider-Man's enemy.
And the villain with the little kid. We're going off on a tangent on little kids and villains, but I it's been done over in Fantastic Four, the Dr. Doom and Valeria.
Yeah,
named Valeria after
his
Dr.
mother.
Doom. Yeah,
his mother. Well, yeah, anyway. he saved Valeria and Sue, so that was all he asked. And besides, every time Richard saw her, he'd have to think of Dr. Doom. But anyway, so
that's a long game.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, I do not believe. I mean, Norman is. I will believe Norman would kill Mary Jane. Norman would kill Aunt May. He's not above that. He's not reliable. He breaks his word. I do not think he would have killed a baby, and I do not think he would have killed a potentially super powered baby that he could use. But anyway,
But there's a what if also. What if
Yep.
Mayday Parker was raised by the Green
Norman
Goblin?
Osborn.
There
Yep,
you go.
exactly.
That's a good one. I like that one.
It is. That would be. But anyway, so Tommy asked me why Norman thought Garg, because when you think about it, you think about all the villains, Norman was always very jealous of that secret. I mean, that's one reason he didn't tell anybody. It was his card to play. You tell somebody else, it's no longer just your card to play. But he needed a contingency plan. And and this is just my speculation, Tommy, but this is what I speculated when I wrote the article, because Gargan had been a private investigator, before he became the Scorpion, because, yeah, exactly. Norman. Now, see, I liked Sarah Stacy. I like Sarah Stacy's character, but I don't want
the clone conspiracy.
She had potential, because she had potential. I always said she was the child of an angel and a devil, and in addition to dealing with the Green Goblin's powers and having she would have maybe Gwen's morality, but she would have Osborn's temper, and Osborn's anger, and she, not only would she be fighting being a goblin, but she would be fighting, being Osborn, but anyways, but they all got effed up. But anyway, so why would he share it with Gargan? Well, Gargan was a private investigator, and Jonah, we actually are introduced to Gargan back in Amazing Spider-Man 19, I believe, in 19 and 20, because Jonah hired Gargan to follow Peter Parker to find out how he gets those great pictures of Spider-Man, Yeah. And then, Gargan says, I don't know. I've followed this kid around. He's not, he's a boring kid, lives with some old woman. And then, but then Joe says, I got something else for you. And ultimately then, Jonah pays, Harlan Farley Stillwell. there were two Stillwells. He pays one Stillwell to create the Scorpion. He makes Gargan the Scorpion. Okay. I speculated that Norman had dealt with Matt Gargan in the past, that Norman had used Matt Gargan's services in the past, because after all, you're a corrupt businessman. Part of what you do is you get dirt on people. You get blackmail material on people. You steal industrial secrets. What better way to do it than have your own crooked private investigator, So I just figured that's exactly, and so Norman knew, of course, there's no honor among thieves, but Norman knew Gargan, and therefore he felt that if he could tell anybody, if he could give anybody the secret to anybody, Gargan was a person, because Norman, Norman didn't know the rest of him. Norman certainly wouldn't have teamed up with Doc Ock. Those two, it'd be like, I'm Spider-Man's greatest enemy. No, I'm Spider-Man's greatest enemy. I'm smarter than you. No, I'm smarter than you. They would never be able to work together. So anyway, that was it was never said why he chose the Scorpion. But that was my theory.
Good one. That's a good one.
So, and to be honest, and one of the things that they were doing good in Ellis and Bendis, and I don't know who was doing this in this story, but Norman could talk, and Gargan would talk to each other. Gargan would tell him what it felt like being when the symbiote, took over him, and how cold it made him feel, and Norman listened. They weren't buddies or anything, but Norman listened to him. And then when Venom, he did something for Norman. Norman gave him like a weekend pass, back when they were the Thunderbolts, and Norman. So that's what led me to believe that there had been a previous relationship, some level of mutual
familiarity.
Respect. Yeah, and mutual respect. So anyway, that was my theory. Anyway, so then,
what is this thing he goes off about the invaders and all this?
There we go. I was just about to get into that.
Yeah, what is this about?
Excuse me a minute. Okay.
He's eating his spinach for the grand finale of this 12-issue miniseries.
Yeah. Well, so let's see here, because I'm going to make sure I quote him.
What's Gargan even talking about with this?
Yeah, well, first of all, he says, that it's more than just you and May Parker, and this is stuff that's been going on for years. And so basically what he is saying, that the reason, and I don't know if anybody else, and I don't know if any of the other Marvel writers have ever picked up on this, because I don't think they have. I think this is strictly to this story. Mm-hmm. But basically Gargan is explaining why, because I think he asked Peter, do you ever wonder why you always fight the same losers over and over and over again, and why the other superheroes fight the same losers over and over again? They were assigned to you guys. It was in their contracts. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? So Gargan tells the story, and he starts off, he says, imagine it's 1945. Well, actually, I believe the accurate date is 1939. That was when Marvel Comics started. That's when Captain America was introduced, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so basically what he's saying is, superheroes, well, basically, we all know the conspiracies about who runs the world, who runs the country. And I tend to believe, like George Carlin, the comedian, I believe they aren't actively conspiring together to do this or rule the world. However, because they have mutual interest and mutual interests intersect, they all happen to be doing each other's dirty work and stuff, but nobody's actively, because after all, the secret is two men can keep a secret if one of them is dead. But so what he says, Gargan says is, okay, you're rich and powerful, and, you got money, and, you're the shadow government and everything. But then all of a sudden superheroes start showing up, and they help you win the war, and that's when he shows them, that's when, you see the invaders, and then you realize, if you're one of these people, that once they get rid of, but once the superheroes take care of all the petty crooks and robbers and things like that, they're going to look for new bad guys to fight. And what bad guys are they going to look for? What bad guys are they going to find? They're going to find you, corrupt businessmen, corrupt accountants, frauds, dictators. They're going to turn their attention to you. So the theory was, so what happened was these rich people got together and funded a supervillain program. And they would pay people to be supervillains, and keep the superheroes busy. Because if the superheroes were busy fighting other spandex-clad clowns, they wouldn't have time to actually, go after politicians or, things like that. And Norman, was one of the scientists they used to create supervillains, And as we saw in Untold Tales of Spider-Man, that is what Norman did. Although, there was no this shadowy cabal stuff, but we saw in Untold Tales that Norman created the Scorcher, and then he created the Headsman, and basically, of course, all these characters all failed. And Norman was like, well, if you're going to do something right, you get something done, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And so he then, but that was he was creating supervillains for this sinister cabal of evil businessmen and politicians. But, he wound up going crazy and became a supervillain himself.
Look at this quote. Bush and Clinton found out about this and closed down all the supervillain programs.
Yeah. It's it's
an interesting idea.
It's an interesting idea, and to be honest, it's something that
if wasn't ever touched on, was it?
Because it did. But Gargan also says that it took a life of its own. That Spider-Man said. So basically, all the guys I've been fighting have all been paper tiger or stooges. He said no, just a couple. He said it just remember at the end of Batman Begins when Commissioner Gordon is talking to Batman, and he shows him the Joker card. That there's this, Gordon is telling Batman basically that he's worried that Batman is going to create a bigger problem. It's like, what do you mean? He's like, you got a mask. You've got a costume. Somebody else is going to get a costume. You know, it's like you're going to, and that's actually then what Division speculated in Civil War. You know, when, you know, Steve Rogers said, what, you mean we're the reason all these bad guys are out there? And he says, no, but that is the effect we're having because we're super powered. We are incenting other people to up their game and invest in super weapons and superpowers and create the new Captain America. So, you know, it's good science fiction-y nonsense, you know? So anyway, so that's the origin of the Marvel universe theoretically.
And the villains.
And the villains. But yeah, that makes sense though, because if superheroes started appearing, you know, then bad guys would say, hey, shit, you know, I'm going to have to up my game. I'm going to get a costume. I'm going to, you know, and somebody's going to say, hey, I'm going to create these weapons, you know, for bad guys to kill supervillains. So in a way, it would snowball and feed on itself. But anyway, so, you know, Gargan and Peter keep having this conversation. You know, they keep talking, and, you know, Peter still is, you know, basically, you know, Gargan, you know, I'm still going to kick your ass. And, you know, Gargan says, you know what? I think you've buried enough people already, don't you? You know, and then of course there's a scene of Spider-Man, you know, holding Gwen's body in her arms.
Do I have that?
But
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but basically what Gargan was saying is that Norman, he's been to Norman's hideout. Norman's got plans within plans. He's got diagrams and drawings. And we actually kind of saw that in around, I think, before issue 800, just before Jonah let it drop that Peter was Spider-Man again. And you saw one of Norman's hideouts, and he had a picture of Spider-Man in the middle and all these lines and all these other pictures of, you know, people, you know, so that was kind of a callback to Gargan saying that just Norman had all these elaborate plans drawn up, and this was one of his plans. So anyway, so, you know, basically in order to save May, Peter is going to have to break Norman out of jail.
Yep.
And so now Peter is faced with an extreme moral crisis. And basically his story in this issue ends when, you know, he's like, what, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And then we actually meet one of his students who we met a few issues earlier, whose name was Humberto, by the way. Coincidence? I don't know. But it's one of his students, and Peter had promised him he'd sit with him and help him prepare for a test. And there he is, and Peter's late, and it's like, you know, Peter says, God, you know, I mean, I've had a really crappy day. Can't we do this some other time? And, you know, the kid goes, please. And, you know, and then you just see Peter, and then he says, okay, let's do it. You know, I mean, again, that's Peter Parker. Peter Parker. That is Peter Parker's humanity. That's why he's arguably the most popular superhero on the planet. You know, I mean, and, you know, I mean, you could arguably, I said, I mean, Batman's great. Superman's great. You know, I mean, you know, Superman is the archetype, you know, but you know, Spider-Man is the one who's, you know, he's got the biggest heart, you know, and he you know, and so anyway, the closest to all of us, I suppose, the hero who could be you. Exactly. So then, and this is kind of almost like a post-credit scene. Okay. The story, you know, you think this is the end of the story, you know, Peter's, you know, it's like he's in this, but this kid's desperate need for help kind of breaks him out of it, you know, breaks him out of this self-indulgence, and, you know, but it's like, this is like a mid or post-credit scene, you know, Gargan, you see you're with Gargan now, and he's walking into his apartment, and somebody's there talking to him. And it's like, what? Who the hell are you? You know, oh, I'm your new best friend, man.
You got a friend in me.
Are you tired of being a B class villain and everything? You know, and then like the last page, it said, and you've never had a friend like me. But and it's the Venom symbiote.
Yeah. Cool.
Which cliffhanger. So,
another one.
Another
one.
I mean, well, that. And like I said, well, fortunately, I think we got time on this one, right? Because there was no program after this. But anyway, but I don't want to bore people. But Anyway, what I was saying, this was a story, with maybe, like I said, a couple of the venomous, the midsection was a little weak. But to be honest, this was a story I went to the comic store every Wednesday to pick up to see what happened next.
And
That
usually
happened.
that kind of storyline is told in Amazing. What was going on in Amazing at this time? Was it Straczynski?
Yes. Actually, it was Sins Past, I think. Yeah, but it was Straczynski's run, and kind of the lead up to Civil War is what was going on.
Yeah.
Because actually, kind of Norman's fate feeds right into Civil War after this, But because at the end, basically, S.H.I.E.L.D. captures him.
Spider history is never boring. Says
I hope not. And
all right, here we go. We've got issue number
10. I tell you, this and the next two covers are frameable covers. They are good. They are frameable covers. If you had these without all the words, or without, you put it in a frame. You have the amazing hero, the beautiful sidekick, and the evil villain all in one. It's just a perfect troika.
All right, take me through this one.
All
we got
right,
3 issues left of this long storyline.
So, Spider-Man is at Uncle Ben's grave again, and again, talk
recently repaired.
Well, yeah, the stone has been repaired, but there's a clue here that Peter doesn't catch on yet, but he does later. Okay. He says they might have fixed your gravestone. They might have swapped the turf and planted a few flowers. Now remember that, boys and girls. Swapping the turf. Okay. I'm sorry about you. Sorry about Gwen. Sorry about Aunt May. But what's happening is this Peter knows to save May, he has to bust Norman out of jail. He has to commit a criminal act. He has to willingly commit a criminal act, which he is, I don't believe he's done before. And, not only is he having to do it, he's having to do it because he's being played by his greatest enemy, by the man he hates the most, the man who's taken the most from him, the man who keeps taking from him, and it is eating him alive. And it's not doing good for Mary Jane's conscience either. And as we go to Peter's apartment, and Mary Jane
she's barfing.
She's losing her lunch.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea of Peter doing this is she, and she thinks, and basically she blames Felicia for it. Which is because Peter has asked Felicia for help, because Peter, again, she can break through any security systems and he can slip through them. So they're a perfect pair. If you want to break into somewhere, they're the perfect pair. You want to break into Fort Knox, you get these people, and Mary Jane is like, every time she shows up, every time, she causes trouble. Yeah, she turns our lives upside down, and of course she thinks it's a good idea to free Norman. She used to sleep in the next cell over.
Dang.
And then it gets even worse.
It's a literal cat fight.
Yeah. When, it's like, and then Felicia says, well, Norman did this because Peter put him in jail. So if Peter breaks Norman out of jail, then maybe everything's back to the way it was. Norman is, it's not, they're not going after each other. It's back to the way it was. Norman's free. And Mary Jane says, what kind of stupid ass justification is that? She says, and since when did we start taking advice from someone who dresses up like a cat and burglarizes people? And then Felicia says, I haven't burglarized anybody in 18 months. Oh, shut up, Felicia. Things are complicated enough without you hanging around. Why don't you just go and find yourself a boyfriend, huh? Oh, it sounds like cat fight.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
all right. So I like this. There's not much text on it, but I love the Dodson's art on this.
Yeah.
Mary Jane sees the ex and the husband go out. And she looks through the window, and then she's packing some heat.
Yeah, she hopes she's wrong, and
Please God, let me be wrong about all this.
Well, she's just afraid they're both going to be drawn into something darker than that they can't get out of. Yep. I mean, she's packing a gun to protect herself. She intends to, if she has to, she intends to kill somebody.
Now I like this story, but that looks dumb.
Oh yeah, why is he
two costumes? Well, he has a perfectly nice black suit in the closet. Why don't you just put the black suit on?
Well, he got rid of the black suit. Remember, he doesn't have it in the closet anymore because it spooks Mary Jane. Remember?
Yeah, but he's got the cloth one.
That's right. No, that's right. Back in black. That's right.
He's got the cloth one. Yeah,
he had put one aside. He had hid one aside for the right moment.
Yeah.
Well,
it is what it is.
So he and Felicia are going to sneak into Riker's and free Norman.
Yeah, JJ just said this. JJ had the same idea. Yeah.
But it's funny. I love the black costume. I really did.
Yeah.
I think it was a great costume. I think they should have stuck with it with Spider-Man. I think it was a perfect costume. The problem is it had this big white spider. So it's kind of like, it's like, where's Spider-Man? Oh yeah. See that white spider? It was just, in fact, I think didn't Frank Miller in The Dark Knight Returns suggest that's why Batman wore a yellow oval for a bat signal all those years is to draw fire to it.
Well, I remember in the Marvel Age preview, the white was replaced with red, which makes sense.
Well, the original conception that the guy who wrote Jim Shooter to propose that Spider-Man have a black costume, it was black and red, and that would have been a cool look. But it probably would have been difficult to, at that time, I'm just thinking when you
separate the colors.
Yeah. I mean, that's why everything was like primary and secondary colors and that's why the Hulk couldn't be gray at first. Because
green pops off the screen.
Green and gray never came back the same color twice with the
but we both agree that looks dumb.
Yeah, it does. I mean, he kind of looks like he's an elf or something, or he's got a fake beard, kind of like, you got one of these fake beard and fake glasses. Well, nobody will recognize me in this one, But anyway, so and then here's a moment which is a good moment for Felicia, and again, an excellent moment for her characterization. She says, I mean, Peter, you're a better person than me. Yeah. You know it. I know it. And basically that's one reason why I've always loved you.
Yeah.
I know that this is something you may not be able to come back from. Mm-hmm. You are about to do something that compromises your moral code and basically your reason for living. Yeah. If you do not want to do this, I will go and do it alone. So you don't have to.
That's good. That's good.
It's again, it's a moral
character. She is well in character mode. That is her.
She is a morally compromised character, but she's not a bad one. Yep. She's not the right girl for Peter, but she loves him. There's a reason she loves him. And it's like it's not too different than the reason Mary Jane does. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mary Jane always was attracted to him, even when he was a little geeky nerd, just because Spider-Man was a hero. Peter Parker is the hero. That's the thing. Spider-Man's the costume. Peter Parker's the hero. And Felicia eventually begins to realize this. And that's why, they had her where she couldn't stand that Peter was Spider, she didn't like the Peter identity. That was just all stupid. That was just really stupid. And I think it was deliberately done to sabotage her character so they could write her out. But anyway, this is a good moment. Peter thinks about it, but no, he's got a job to do. He made a deal. He made a bargain. He's going to follow with it. So
let's go.
Well, okay. But anyway, remember the guard whose wife died that Norman subtly poisoned? Well, he and all his buddies are going to get together and they are going to blow Osborn away. And they're asking the monitor guard, just, go to the John, just say it's your swollen prostate or something, and we'll take Osborn out. Well, how can you do it? I mean, he's, the guy's practically bulletproof, which I don't think Osborn is bulletproof, but he has the healing factor. But anyway, I got this big super powered gun here that, these bullets will blow him apart. So these guys are going to kill Osborn. Well, so we go back to the Black Cat, who's circumventing all the security systems. Spider-Man gets to Norman's cell, and of course, instead of being grateful, you're 90 seconds late. Shut up, Norman.
That's
but anyway, so he busts Norman out of jail, and the guards, he's not here, but the monitor guard is saying, no, he's here. I see him. He's playing with a puzzle or whatever. Which Black Cat is taking some film and is relooping it, and so they think they're seeing Norman. And look, hey, the Rhino was next door to him.
Yeah,
so anyway,
next door.
Yeah, so Norman's gone. Oh my God, where is Norman?
Hit the alarm.
And then we find out, and then so they they cuff Norman, but that doesn't last long. But so they're trying to make their way out through the sewers. Somebody sees them. Norman takes care of it pretty quickly and gets away.
He headbutts him with that hair.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those Osborn cornrows are deadly weapons in themselves. Well, so Osborn gets away. Peter loses Felicia in the darkness. But the idea was they would jump out into the bay and then hide and swim to shore. Okay, so that's what Spider-Man does. So as he gets close to the shore, something happens. He like a water spout, or it's like a water with a life of its own. It's kind of like grabbing a hold of him. It's like, what the hell is this? And it sucks him up. Well, it's Hydro Man.
Yep.
And then, Sandman. And we find out that good old Norman has rounded up the whole gang.
Oh, here they come.
The Sinister 12 or whatever, which is what they call themselves.
Wow, look at that. This is a cool panel. Look at all those bad guys.
Yeah. And, Peter says, Norman, we had a deal. Yeah, we did, but I have a reputation to maintain. And besides, I hate your guts. So he says, and I remember the Jonathan wanted he wanted to do a teaser for this. And so because Norman says, what are you waiting? So anyway, so I say the line, what are you waiting for, boys? Do something horrible while I'm dancing with his wife. You got to love saying those lines. That's why it's so fun to be the bad guy. Take care of him while I'm dancing with his wife. So this is, and you're right. I mean, this
here you go. I finally found the text. There you go. What are you waiting for, boys? There it is. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the big.
And you're right. I mean, and this is a great picture. They're just surrounded. Oof. They're surrounded. How the hell do they get out of this? And then another player decides to enter the stage.
The new Venom.
The Matt Gargan Venom. This is Spider-Man's last stand, huh? Wouldn't have missed this for the world. To be continued.
Man. Oh. It makes you want to run to the comic store right now.
Absolutely. No, it makes you want to pitch a tent and like you're waiting for the next iPhone, right? Or you're waiting for the next PlayStation. Yep. Spencer actually did that once.
Oh, my gosh.
And I don't know. His mother and I let him do it. Let him camp out all night in front of the GameStop to try to get a PlayStation 5. It's like, oh God, it's like, well, why do we do these things? He didn't get one, obviously. But people do that. They sit in front of the iPhone store, or back when back when before movies, you had all of these multiplexes that showed a movie several times a day on several different screens at the same time.
Yeah, they did that for Star Wars, right?
Yeah, I mean, when Star Wars first came out, something like or Titanic even, but Star Wars was the real. It's like people would camp out. Waiting to buy tickets for the movies to open. Actually, some of the Star Trek movies, the very early Star Trek movies, people would camp out hours or even days in advance to get a ticket. And the theaters would be packed to bursting.
Here's another cover that you said's frameable.
Another cover.
Look at that.
Another awesome cover. Oof. So we get to so we open up, we start with the story. And basically, it's like, this the Scorpion, now Venom, is saying, "Look at this, ain't I cool?" And Norman's saying, "What the F is this? I didn't plan on you becoming Venom. I had this thing figured out to the T. I planned this to the very nth degree, and you becoming Venom wasn't part of it."
You moron.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm going to come and deal with you after I've murdered Spider-Man's pretty little wife, and Jesus Christ, Norman, chill out. Because Gargan thinks this is the greatest thing.
Yeah, he's excited.
He's excited, and Norman is like, "You this stupid! This wasn't part of the plan."
Yeah.
Well,
that's funny.
Peter and Felicia, if they go down, they are going down fighting.
Yeah. Look at him move.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because see, the lizard is there.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did they break the lizard out? It's not like the lizard can take orders, is it? I mean, he's the lizard. He's,
right.
Connors didn't have control of the lizard for the most part, so like he's a rampaging monster. It's like,
but it's cool.
What do they think he's going to do? Hey, Liz, Kurt, go do this. It's like, he's not going to take orders. And also the chameleon's there too. Well, the chameleon's not super powered. What the hell is he going to do?
It just looks cool.
What is the chameleon going to do? Is he going to, I don't know. Is he going to pretend to be I don't know. It's just like, what is he going to do? But, so anyway, but
poor Felicia gets electrocuted. Look at that, man.
Felicia, Electro zaps her, zaps the hell out of her. And, Gargan is sizing Spider. You're just saying, but I've lost to you so many times over the years. And I've got enough anger and rage and hate for you and for the world to feed this suit all it needs for a lifetime. Yeah. And Spider-Man, shut up. And knocks but
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, again, an enraged Spider-Man is not someone you want to mess with.
People, at least the modern writers, in my opinion, that they see the Spider-Man where he's beat up. They can't resist bringing in someone to help him. Mm-hmm. Like if this was written 20 years later, don't you think the Avengers would show up?
Well, here I'm about to get into that. Actually.
Okay. Yeah.
But like, for example, like I was saying, Spider-Man, when he's mad, I mean, but he can't take 12 of them at the same time. Oh,
hell. Good God. Sorry, JR. They do show up. Jesus.
Hang on. Yes, we have complained about it, but I like it in this instance.
Really?
Okay. Yes, I do. Because one, this is truly a situation he can't get out of himself.
Why not? Why not?
It's not like I don't know. Well, I don't know. Like the current battle with Tombstone. Tombstone is not in Spider-Man's league. Spider-Man should kick Tombstone's ass 6 ways. No, Tombstone should not be able to hold his own against Spider-Man.
Well, the writer is saying he can.
Well, the writer's full of shit, and he likes torture porn.
Boy, we can't wait to hear your thoughts tomorrow night.
Well, there's nothing to say. There's no story. It's just a fight. They fight. Beat each other up. The end. That's it. Anyway, so
my God, have I forgotten this story? I was like, here's the deal, JR. This isn't a team up. I want Spider-Man to take them all on and be bloodied and bruised and win against all these guys.
He
took on Fire-Lord.
Yeah, but again, that was one person. Yes, you can write these stories any way you want. If you wanted Spider-Man to beat them all, he would. I do. If you want him to slip away and escape, he would have. If you want him to get beaten to a pulp, he can be. But
the trope of everybody coming in and rescue him.
But one, it's overused.
It is,
and two, part of it is because Marvel is always trying to promote somebody else. They're always trying to promote somebody else. But I liked it because it's like you always wonder why doesn't it, why Spider-Man always have to, why can't Spider-Man get help? Why can't he go for help? Why doesn't anybody help him? He's helped all these superheroes out over the years. He's helped the Avengers. He helped the Fantastic Four, Daredevil. Nobody ever helps him out. Why? Well, this time they did.
All right. Here they come. All the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and Daredevil and Ms. Marvel. Wait a minute.
Basically, it's like basically Mary Jane called S.H.I.E.L.D. and said Spider-Man's in trouble. And so S.H.I.E.L.D. called out the cavalry. And, most of these people owe Spider-Man. They do. They owe him. So it's like when Spider-Man needs help, it's like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. When George needed help, everybody came running, right? And every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Anyway, so Mary Jane, but somebody's waiting for her. Somebody's waiting for her.
Yeah.
Clever girl.
Jesus.
Yeah. Not exactly the other guy, but anyway, so the superheroes Avengers and FF are just mopping up the bad guy. And this reminds me of a scene I loved in one of the What Ifs. The What If the new Fantastic Four became the Fantastic Four, like in during Byrne's run, the Fantastic Four were thought to be dead. And so Spider-Man, Wolverine, Hulk, and Ghost Rider all came together to avenge them or whatever. And of course they weren't dead or whatever. But then the What If story was, if the Fantastic Four had really died, what would have happened? Would they have stayed together as a team to honor, because to make up for their own failure to save the four, and to try to take their place, so they stayed together as a team. But one of the things they did was they decided to settle a few old scores. And so, you see Spider-Man in an alley and there's the Sinister Six, and they said, Spider-Man, it's just you against all of us, and we're going to kill you. Then we're going to kill everybody who loves you. Then we're going to kill everybody who's ever served you coffee. Then we're going to, and then Spider-Man says, oh no, yeah, you really could do that. But I brought along some of my friends, and it's the Hulk and Ghost Rider and Wolverine. And the next panel is the Sinister Six collectively dropping a load, It's just even Doc Ock, just like, oh my God, and I just love that scene, because that's like, hey, you got the help, you might as well use it.
So that's a What If story.
Yeah, it's a What If story. During it's the second volume of What If the new Fantastic Four had stayed together.
Okay, that's cool.
Which, actually at the end they break up again, but it was still a good story because ultimately you realize they could never really get along. But interestingly, in an later issue of Wolverine in an alternate universe, that team stayed together. But anyway, so Spider-Man is just rushing, trying to get to, trying to save Mary Jane.
To get Mary Jane, yep.
Yeah. But Gargan is right on his heels. Yeah. Right on his heels. And Gargan says, but I'm not really trying to kill you. I'm just trying to keep you from saving your wife. And, so Gargan tries to bring down buildings, and, so Spider-Man is forced to save people but he still does. And he has, and he kind of gets up back on his feet and he starts cleaning Venom's clock because, as he says, a loser dressed like Venom is still a loser.
Yep. And then Gargan goes, oh, shit. Yeah, there. Hey, boom.
Yeah.
Bring the house down, Spidey.
Again, Spider-Man.
Time to get squished, Scorpion. That's good.
Yep. That's good. Well, now we've resolved another subplot. Remember why Doc Ock back in issue 5? Why Doc Ock was being taken away for some medical treatments, and why he was in a zombie state and everything. This is like
Doc Ock?
This is Doc Ock.
What the heck?
I know.
What the heck? He's got a mullet.
This is the rest of that plot, because remember when Gargan told you Gargan told us the story of Norman creating the supervillains and stuff. Well, now that Norman has been in jail, all of the people he did business with and all the secrets he knows, is they're all worried that now that he's in jail, he's going to expose them. All right. And Norman always had a plan that if he died, if he got killed, that, mail would start going out to the papers and everything else. So Norman knew where all the bodies were buried. Nice. And that's why he was untouchable. And one of it was mentioned more than once about all these robberies going on at Oscorp plants and buildings and things. So they were stealing all of Norman's stuff, all of Norman's potential evidence. And then they were going to send Doc Ock. They were going to brainwash him and send Doc Ock to kill Norman. So that was the plan. Okay, that's why Norman really wanted to get busted out of jail, because he knew they were coming to kill him. And he knew that they'd gotten all the evidence he'd collected, and now they finally were able to come and kill him. So that's what Doc Ock was here for, and that's why Doc Ock is in the medical bay being prepped. But somebody mentions Osborn getting away, and that triggers Doc Ock out of his catharsis, because he knows he has to kill Norman Osborn. So someone mentions the name, and he says, oh, well, this is a plan that requires serious legs. He breaks out and he's going after Norman. So Spider-Man doesn't find Mary Jane at their. Now this, I kind of lost here why Spider-Man knew where to go. Okay, apartment's empty.
It's the bridge.
Yeah, here we go. Well, no, it's a new bridge. It's the
new bridge. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see in another next issue. But apartment's empty. No sign of his struggle. Did he kill her? No. If you're see here, you trust your instincts just like you did when he disappeared with Gwen. Why are you pushing me like this, Osborn? So anyway, he goes to a bridge. Well, he goes to a bridge.
There it is.
And there's a Green Goblin with Mary Jane.
Looks like, just like Spider-Man #1.
Because he knew
Sam Raimi's #1.
Yeah, he knew. Yep. He knew that. Now choose. He knew that Osborn was. Osborn would go back to his old tropes.
Look at that.
And then again another frameable picture.
Look familiar, Mr. Parker. Oh, read the line, JR.
Look familiar, Mr. Parker.
That's a good looking shot right there.
So,
nice?
Folks.
Gosh.
I'm killing myself to bring this story to you. I hope you appreciate what I'm doing for you. Oh,
all right. We're going to wrap this up,
I'm
JR.
doing this for love. Anyway, issue 12.
Let me get you a cover.
Let me get you the cover. Another awesome cover.
Look at that.
Just the way you want to see it go down. Yeah. Spider-Man and the Green Goblin in a fight to the death.
Too bad it's got that damn 90s clone logo up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but alas.
So anyway, the story begins. Now, see, this is this is where, Norman says, think you'll miss Mary Jane as much as you miss Gwen, Spider-Man? I picked a new bridge just for her,
Oof.
Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking, why does Spider-Man know to go? Because there was always a big controversy. Did he go to the Brooklyn Bridge? Did Gwen get thrown off the Brooklyn Bridge or the George Washington Bridge? Because, Spider-Man said both. They said both. And I guess they ultimately settled on it was the Brooklyn Bridge. But, it's not like the George Washington Bridge is like right next to it. So it's not like, oh, he didn't take her to the Brooklyn Bridge like I thought he might. Oh, he took her over to the George Washington.
Well, no, if this is a video game, you'd have to spend a couple minutes swinging to the other one,
Yeah. Anyway, so whatever. So they're on the bridge.
Get an air thing and fly. Anyway, here's your line. They talk about Norman Osborn at his age.
You're 55 years old. You're a 55-year-old man. What are you doing with this shit? And basically he says, oh, yeah, spoken like you invented web fluid. You were brilliant. And you're doing this stupid shit, all we're doing is fighting each other. This is, but, of course, Peter says, as smart as you are, you could have cured cancer. You could have basically, you could have used your knowledge for good. And he said, but the difference between you and me is, and I don't give a rat's ass. Now you can imagine, I loved saying that line. And what Jonathan did was, because he used the picture, like I said, he cut a lot of, shorten the dialogue and switch some of the pictures around. So when Norman says, "I don't give a rat's ass," the picture he shows is the one on the next page where it's just Norman's teeth, where the goblin's smiling.
Yeah.
That one.
That's
So
cool.
I was like, so he had it lined up where when I say, "I don't give a rat's ass," it's that picture. And I just thought, oh, that's fun.
Nice.
That's just cool. That's cool. So it's like, so Spider-Man's like, oh my God, what's the point of all this? What's the futility? This is futile. This is ridiculous. And basically Norman says, hey, you started it. You think, you think I was just going to sit and take it, that you put me in jail. But, so as the battle is about to be joined, they hear something. Uh-oh, what's that? And it's Doc Ock.
It's Wolverine. With arms.
Yeah.
It looks like Wolverine, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does actually. It does. Oh my Lord. This is another gripe I have. Sorry. Doc Ock deserved better. He deserved better. He's one of Spider-Man's A-list villain. You can argue back and forth whether it's he or Norman who's Spider-Man's greatest villain. He deserved better. He should have been a more integral part. He shouldn't have been a zombie, or he just should never have been in the story. But they wanted to use all the classic villains, so they kind of.
It's like, are you ready for me, bub?
They shoehorned him in there. So, shut up and die, fool. So Norman,
if he would have looked like himself, it would have been so much better. Like, Norman,
There was always you always were waiting for a classic Norman Ock team up or confrontation, and this wasn't it. This wasn't it, because remember, it's one of the differences between Marvel and DC, for example, is if you remember, like the old Batmans before Denny O'Neil came in and completely rejiggered Batman back to the Dark Knight. But during the 50s and early 60s, and when, Luthor and Joker were teaming up all the time, in Superman or Batman or whatever, they were always getting together and up to mischief, and, or Joker and the Penguin, or the villains were always teaming up. But in Marvel or in Spider-Man, you never saw the Green Goblin and Doc Ock do anything together. You never saw them in the
Sinister Six or anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, so they were just completely, and this was the first time they'd come up against each other, and it's this, I mean, Ock's not in his right mind. He's not in full control of his capabilities.
Is this really their first fight?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
So it was kind of this was kind of a waste. But so anyway, so Norman's kind of facing it on two fronts. He's got to fight off Doc Ock, and he's got to fight off Spider-Man. Well, they take care of Doc Ock for a minute. And so Norman turns his attention to Spider-Man. And again, this is, some of the lines I remember saying this is a big one, Parker. It doesn't matter who wins. You only know I'll come back from the dead, and, over and over and over again, and then Mary Jane shoots Norman, which, it's funny listening.
Here's the line that you were talking about. There's the panels. Okay.
Yeah. I'm only
boom, eat this.
Yeah, and it's funny to watch it because the girl who does Mary Jane's voice, I mean, none of us, I mean, of course, none of us ever saw each other. We all did it separately in our homes or whatever, and emailed the tapes. So nobody played off each other, and nobody's a voice actor. But it's just kind of funny after you hear my silly cackling or whatever, this girl's voice comes on, eat this. It's just kind of, it's that's why I always liked the Star Trek fan films, even though a lot of them were just, people always complained about how awful they were, but come on, they were fan films. They were supposed to be awful, anyway.
Real quick.
But no, it's just fun. Fans getting together and reading a Spider-Man comic. It was delightful.
We've mentioned it several times. I'm going to put it in chat. I just found it on YouTube. This is the YouTube video that JR is talking about, where he did the voice of the Goblin. It's in Thwip Studios. Just do a quick search for. Heck, I can find it even easier and show people here. So let me take this out and stop screen, present. I actually have the little tab up here. It's called There you go. So click on Twip Studios, and you're going to click on Motion Comics over here. Well, I had it.
I mean, people can find it. They can get to this. They can find it. It's not hard to find.
It isn't, but there it is. It's great to hear JR as the Goblin.
Well, it's just a goofy.
There it is.
It's just a goofy old fan playing a bad guy. I mean, I really didn't want to. I never thought I was even appropriate for Norman. I'm not appropriate for Norman Osborn's voice. I don't have. Someone said, "Oh, he sounds too much." Norman doesn't have a Southern twang. Someone said Norman was born in Connecticut. He shouldn't have a Southern twang. Well, I'm from Southwestern Indiana. What do you want?
If you want to hear me do. I'm in this one.
You cameo in one.
And my daughter, who was like 3, is the little girl in this one. At the time, she's now 14. Good Lord.
Teenager.
I know, right?
She hadn't brought a boy hadn't come home with her, has it?
Off the record. Yeah, we're getting close. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That if you want to look up that on YouTube, you can do that. It's still up there. He hasn't updated it. What's the last video?
Yeah,
in a long time.
He did.
7 years ago is the last one he did with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically, he told me, he said he did. He did the stories he wanted to do. He did 40 of them.
Good for him.
What was funny though was the reason he asked me to do Norman's voice or the Goblin's voice is because he heard me do it on the crawl space.
Oh, that's so funny.
because I did the Osborn commercial.
Oh yeah.
And then I did the Norman and Obadiah Stane because someone wanted me to do Obadiah. So I put both of them together. But anyway, and then, people started wanting me to do it and I did. And then it starts being funny.
Oh my gosh. Now you're in Gary and the Frozen's brain. Every time he reads the Goblin, it's your voice.
Well, it's again, it's a derivative of Willem Dafoe's. I mean, it's not intentionally, but it was, like I said, it was the easiest one to do because actually it's hard on your throat. I remember because when I did the Clone Saga one, and I, the point where Spider-Man keeps getting up and Norman keeps asking him, why won't he die? And it was just like, why won't you die? Why? It's like, okay, that's it for today. I'll do the rest of it tomorrow.
What episode is the Osborn commercial? Lord, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
there's a YouTube video of it, and it's not on the crawl space. I think maybe Bertoni did it. I forget who edited it together.
Yeah, but somebody put with pictures and stuff. But no, it was back. It was back in our radio days.
Pre-video.
Yeah, and when we were just when it was just a podcast before Brad started YouTube. Yeah. But anyway, he heard me do this on the crawl space, and he asked me to do it. But then he even actually he did Death in the Family because he. I don't know. He had certain stories he wanted to do, and he had enough, I guess, gas or to do one more, and he picked Death in the Family. Mm-hmm. And I think there are ultimately like 5 times I did the Goblin. I think I did it for Spider-Man Blue. I did it for and I only had like 6 lines of Spider-Man Blue, and I'm awful. I mean, I'm just awful, and I'm as Norman, I'm awful. I mean, I'm not.
No, you're not. My God.
It was just fun. It was just,
but you can go down a rabbit hole on his YouTube channel.
Yeah. But then he got done and he started doing Fantastic Four. And then he stopped. I mean, I haven't been in contact with him for years.
His last video was 7 years ago. Maybe he's still watching the crawl space. So.
Well, I try to throw some traffic his way because it's happened before. He once wrote us back once after I mentioned it once before, and this was several years ago. He wrote us back and said, "Hey, I got 20 new subscribers because of you guys." But that's a lot of work. I mean, I know
the editing and the scanning of the images and
I think basically he just got burned out. He got burned out. He'd done between 40 Spider-Mans and, a dozen or so Fantastic Fours. He'd done it for years. It's like, why am I putting my talents to use on material I don't own? I don't know if that's exactly what he was thinking, but I'm thinking
he didn't overstay as a welcome like you and I have been for years.
Yeah. he hasn't been aging in place like we have.
He hasn't.
But anyway, I don't, but no, I just, I did it about 5 times for 5 stories. Death in the Family, I really liked because I actually got to, I actually kind of I felt like I was sort of getting close to Norman's voice. But it's just fun to be when you're a little kid, you want to be the hero. You know, you want to be the hero, you want to save the girl, you want to save the day, you know, you want people to cheer you, yay! And you get older and you realize that life is a little more complex, and good and evil are there's things aren't as black and white. And besides, the bad guys got the best lines.
Well, they did. All the actors want to be the bad guys anyway.
Oh, there you go.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Mary Jane is
Oh,
thrown
anyway,
off
so
the bridge.
and this is there's almost I know it's not an homage, but if you remember No Way Home, when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is able to save Zendaya's MJ, and kind of get some redemption for that. This actually, this is 17 years earlier, but Peter, Mary Jane goes off the bridge, and Peter is, I have relived this moment over and over and over again. How would I have done it differently? How would I have saved Gwen instead of winding up accidentally killing her? And so he does, it's like he's worked this out for years.
That's cool.
And he does it. He uses multiple, and he's able to bring Mary Jane to a stop without hurting.
Yeah, I mean, this is straight out of No Way Home. I mean, not this could have been inspired by No Way Home.
No, I mean, No Way Home could have, but I don't think it did. But it's funny to watch. I mean, it's cool. Interesting to see this. To see, to see it play out, in a different medium.
Cool.
I love No Way Home. I really do. It's probably my second favorite Spider-Man movie, and honestly, I don't care if they make another one.
They just announced they are.
Yeah, I know.
Comes out 2026.
I know they will. I know they want Tom Holland to do a bunch more, and he's probably willing to do a bunch more as long as they pay him.
Wouldn't you?
Hell yeah! If they're going to pay me, I don't know what the
I'll do Spider-Man 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's do it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know. I don't know what the going rate is these days, but I mean, they're willing to pay, I mean, if someone went, if he takes 1 million, if they'll pay him 1 million or $500,000 for a part in a movie, but they'll pay him 20 million to be Spider-Man.
Let's go.
Anyway, so Peter saves Mary Jane, but Norman, you won't believe how much this hurts, because he's getting the glider ready to impale somebody. This is going to hurt. But Doc Ock catches up to him. And again, I remember I had to say these lines too. Octavius, what are you doing? Release me this instant. I'll bury this thing in your head, you fat.
He's not fat. He's ripped.
Yeah, he's actually svelte this time. But it's like, I'll bury this thing in your head, you fat. And then lightning strikes. The finger of God. And I think Miller said that, if you want to believe that it's Uncle Ben coming to the rescue, you think that's not a bad idea. But, essentially the hand of God, strikes him down. His strikes both strikes his greatest villains down. They go into the water and disappear. And, Spider-Man leaves Mary Jane on the bridge. I'm trying to think, what? He just runs away,
Why?
but he figured out. I should have given some attention to this earlier, because when Spider-Man accuses Norman of killing Aunt May, Spider-Man says, "Oh, ye of little faith." She's, she's about to suffocate on her own vomit or whatever, but she's not down among the dead men yet. So, and Norman says that. And then that reminds Peter, remember at the grave when the grave was prepared and the dirt was, I forget the term that was
freshly
used.
sod or something.
Yep.
That was a clue.
That was a clue. The Vandals only destroyed the headstone. They didn't desecrate. They didn't actually, desecrate the grave. So Peter realizes then that Norman has buried Aunt May in the Parker grave plot.
So wait a minute. So is this Aunt May's grave and Uncle Ben's next door, or is this Uncle Ben's where Uncle Ben's coffin was?
Uncle, when Ben died, there would probably already be a plot next to him for. I mean,
right. So this is Aunt May's plot.
Yeah, but he probably put her in her own plot.
Okay.
But but the ground was disturbed. I mean,
yeah.
He saw the ground was disturbed and knew someone had been digging there, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, nobody, they just destroyed the headstone. They didn't, try to dig him up or desecrate his actual, resting place. So, I mean, my parents, when my dad died, I mean, the tombstone's got my mom's name on it, just waiting. But 20 years later, she's still hanging on. But anyway, yeah, that's typical. So there would have been a spot already for May. Anyway, so there she is. She's been drugged. She's sleeping. She was half an hour away from being dead, but Spider-Man comes to the rescue, and Aunt May is saved.
Yep, Peter. Hey, you're in costume, Pete. You better change. Oh, all right.
Well, and as we find out, they find Doc Ock. They fish him out of the river. Norman's body has disappeared. Well, of course it has. Norman got away. But as we find out, which we didn't see it happened off panel. But when we get to Civil War, Norman is in jail again. So Marvel said, well, Shield found him and arrested him again. So that's why I said, well, I mean, I think Miller did this in a vacuum, although he does refer to Norman saying, like, very late when I escaped from Cage, I think that I'm guessing that was put in, just to have that little reconciling moment, because there's no way the Pulse was written for him to escape, and the story wasn't set up originally for him to have escaped. It was a new story, a new devious plot, whatever.
Oh, I forgot. Aunt May knows he's Spider-Man, so he can be in costume. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. All right.
You forgot that?
Well, no, I forget what year that.
Yeah, not only do you forget what comics you review, you forgot that Aunt May knew that Peter was Spider-Man.
By the end of this episode, I don't know who the hell you are.
Actually, that should be my line. I'm 61. I should be the one forgetting. But I am the one who can't use technology right. But anyway, so they find Doc Ock, fish him out of the bay. Norman, of course, can't be found. The Black Cat is hospitalized, and this is funny. I mean, it's a little joke within the story, and a joke that we know as well. The Black Cat woke up in a private room. She was checked in under the name Julie Newmar.
Oh, nice. The Catwoman from the 60s Batman.
The Catwoman, the actress who played, and I believe she is still alive.
She's still alive, yes.
She is in her 90s, and she is still alive. I'm trying to think, everybody else.
No, Burt Ward's still with us.
That's right. I'm sorry. Burt Ward is Burt Ward, but Adam West died. All the,
Cesar Romero's gone. Burgess Meredith.
Frank Gorshin. Frank Gorshin was. They were all. They could have done the roles seriously if they'd had to.
There's. I think she's also the only Catwoman still with us, because you had
Eartha Kitt passed away, and I think Lee Merriweather.
Lee Merriweather, yeah.
But anyway, but in an earlier issue, when Spider-Man was being checked into the hospital and someone was going to take his mask off, then like the supervisor came and said, you don't do that. When a mask comes in, we don't take their mask off, and we put them under a false name.
That'd probably fall under HIPAA, wouldn't it?
Well,
in the Marvel universe, the HIPAA rule where you can't divulge any identity of your patients in the real world. That's a thing.
Oh, that's a thing. I mean, it's funny. Again, back with one of the arguments people used against how Gwen couldn't have been pregnant by Norman, blah blah blah, was that the hospital would have told Captain Stacy. No, they wouldn't have. They couldn't have. I mean, HIPAA didn't exist back then, but it does
confidentiality
now.
Of it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can't. I mean, for example, I cannot. My wife and Spencer are still on my health insurance at work. Rachel grew out of it, got her own. She's got her, but I can't get into their. I mean, I can't get into their records. I mean, for example, I can't go into Blue Cross and Blue Shield under my own name and get their records,
right?
Because I'm not. It's like. And I can't believe
I'm paying for the damn thing.
I know. I have said more than one. I am the subscriber.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. So anyway, but they check her into the name Julie Newmar, which is a great joke. But then, so he talks to her and he says, how could I have missed what Mary Jane and Norman Osborn and everyone else so blatantly saw? how could I have failed to notice that Felicia was still smitten as a kitten?
Aw.
Corny language, but basically he never realized that Felicia was still in love with him.
Yeah.
You know, Mary Jane knew it. She could see it plain as day.
Yeah.
He couldn't. So, I mean, I don't know. It's again, this is a really good characterization of the Black Cat. You know, she's the bad girl. She's no good for Spider-Man, but you know, there's still something very special between them. And Nick Spencer tried to bring that back, you know, because remember, Felicia forgot when everybody else did with the mind wipe. And you know, one time, you know, she was with him and said, I used to know who you were. I know we used to make love. I know this, but I can't, you know, and just seeing the torture she was under, he told her, he revealed his identity. And then he told Mary Jane, and it was okay with Mary Jane. You know, it's kind of like, you know, they all knew something was wrong and they fixed it. But anyway, blah, blah. So anyway, so now we find out, you know, it's kind of the epilogue. Gargan's is now, you know, Gargan's in jail, but you know, Peter doesn't have to worry about him revealing the secret identity because, you know, again, hey, you know, the villain's secret. Why would you share that with anybody else? You know, I mean, that's your trump card.
Brand New Day wiped all that out, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
All the memories.
I liked Gargan being Venom. I really did. Because Eddie, I mean, the whole Eddie, you know, again, I understand why Venom was and is a popular character, and I understand why he took off as a villain. I didn't at first, but when I went back and did my one article on Venom, and I understood why, you know. But you know, but the thing is, they ruined him, you know, by the what it was, Lethal Protector. They ruined him by making him an anti-hero, and Brock, they just, you know, instead of Brock being a sick man, you know, I don't know. They
you know, that miniseries came out, I think, in 1993 or 94. So you had from 88 to 93 of just evil Venom, and that's my peak Venom years.
So I mean, they had really neutered Venom. So
and they put all the focus of the evil on Carnage.
Yeah. Carnage became the new Venom. I mean, but you know, but this goes back to Michelinie's original idea, because he had planned to write Spider-Man. He had written Amazing 300. He was wanting to stay on through at least 400. Because he said, I think in the interview in that book written by Tom DeFalco, you know, which I know you have and I have, and it's a must-have, Spider-Man readers.
The comics creators on Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that's a good book.
It was Michelinie's idea for Venom. Well, one, Venom was originally supposed to be bonded with a woman, but
and lost a kid. And that was the motivation.
Yeah, her husband and child had died because they were distracted. Something anyway, Spider-Man had distracted, whatever. But anyway, they said, "Oh no, a woman couldn't be a believable villain against Spider-Man." Yeah. It's like, what the hell is? It's just stupid. I mean, it's amazing.
Princess Python disagrees.
Well, it's just, you know, and this idea that guys don't like girls being superheroes. Guys,
but you know what? Does Spider-Man have a good female villain?
Not really.
I mean, really. Screwball. Come on.
The Black Cat started to be one, but you know, she got turned into a love interest, and you know, Scream had, you know, part of the problem though is they load the women down with men issues. You know, they're not. Yeah. That's the reason. Like for example, in Spider-Girl, I loved Tom DeFalco's Spider-Girl run.
Yeah.
While it never had like just these great high points that the Amazing Spider-Man did, it also didn't have. It was a very consistent title, and he brought some old villains back, and one of those was what was Angel Face. It had been Angel, because he had originally written the Ben Urich Green Goblin series, and one of those villains was Angel Face. And he brought Angel Face back in Spider-Girl, and she had two sons that were also super villains, but she was just evil. She hadn't been raped. Her father hadn't ignored her, beat her, or abused her. She was just evil, you know? And it's just like all the writers, when they create a super villain, a female villain, they want to give her issues related to men. It's like, why just not have a bad girl? But anyway, so, you know, Gargan's in jail. The Tinkerer holds a new auction for the Scorpion costume.
Real quick, does Gargan still have the suit?
Gargan still has the symbiote.
Okay.
Yeah. Gargan still
has I wonder if they took it off of him when he's in jail.
I don't know. I mean, it's just, you would think they did. They always did with Brock,
Yeah.
or Cassidy, or they drugged him up so much that the symbiotes, stayed neutered. But, I guess they're just, this is just the epilogue. Okay, we're wrapping everything up. But I like that Gargan had become, because as the Scorpion, he'd kind of been made a joke. Venom had really been neutered and weakened and everything. And I thought this was really good for both characters.
Yeah,
But
anyway, the Bugle. Yep.
Yeah, so we go back to the Bugle, and now Jonah is writing positive articles about Spider-Man because he believes that Spider-Man is his son. Again, he should never, Peter would never have done it. Jonah would never have believed it. Never. I mean, they were seen together too many times. I mean, after all, Spider-Man fought the Man-Wolf. Spider-Man, back in the earlies when space spores made John become almost Hulk out, Jonah would never believe that John was Spider-Man. So anyway, again, another.
I don't even remember when that was resolved, that storyline.
About Peter David resolved it.
With John Jameson?
Yeah, he resolved it. He basically, they both got captured by somebody, and Jonah is hinting to John, shouldn't you become Spider-Man? It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he realizes that Peter faked him out. And
that must have been Friendly Neighborhood or something.
It was Friendly Neighborhood. I think it was the wrestler issue. I think it was early on. But anyway, so the new
one issue that Sony's trying to make, or did try to make, of that or whatever, that Mexican wrestler, I forget.
Yeah, Bad Bunny or something like that.
Bad Bunny. There you go. Anyway, Aunt May and Peter.
Aunt May and Peter. Peter saying, I got to give this up. I can't be Spider-Man anymore. This sucks. Blah blah blah. And Aunt May kind of brings him back. Says, look, he said, because I'm Spider-Man, you got kidnapped. And she said, yeah, but because you're Spider-Man, I got rescued too. And she kind of talks him down from the ledge he's on. And she says, let's go, let's go home. What was it? Did she say, I know she said 10,000
people directly, Peter. That's not even counting all the bombs you've activated.
I know there's one, maybe she doesn't say it here, but I do think that she says that Ben would have, if Ben knew that his death would have created Spider-Man, he would have gone to it willingly. She doesn't say it here though, apparently, but she does say it sometime that, Ben died, but if he knew that his death,
I wish you knew where that was from. That's a great line.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Help us out, chat. If you know where it is, let us know.
But she said if he knew that his death would have created a hero, he would have willingly gone to it.
Sweet. That's great.
But so I don't know. It's at some time I know Peter can feel guilty, but I think at some time reality has to. But that's the trope. Mm-hmm. He can never move on. Just like Batman. Off. Just like Batman can never move on from his parents' death or whatever. But anyway, so Aunt May talks him down, says, yeah, Mary Jane says every couple of years you always threaten to give it up and you go back to it. And I'll make you some wheat cakes,
But then you should totally read this verbatim what it says, JR.
Well, I read it in my Norman voice, which is not a very good voice, but I love this idea because I think, it's weird, but I think I think it is Norman is being completely honest given the mood he was in at the time. Yeah. And
here, read it. Let's see. Right. Let the reader, my dear Peter,
if you're reading this, it can only mean that I have failed in my latest endeavor. And so I wish to offer my most heartfelt congratulations. Obviously, this is one of several letters I had prepared, and you have my word as an old friend that the assistant mailing this has no idea about the rather remarkable secret we both share. I want to thank you for what I assume was both a fair and exciting battle, and assure you that you can enjoy a period of relaxation regardless of whether I survived or not. It must be stressed that these fights are by no means a sign of any real enmity or enmity. On the contrary, I hold you in enormous regard, and I am always grateful for your attentions. Were it not for you, I would be just another boring businessman running another boring chemical manufacturing business. Your intelligence and resourcefulness has given my life both structure and meaning. and I apologize for any doubts I have placed in your mind as a result of our latest meeting. As you know, your marriage, your reputation, and your passion for preserving the status quo are all very important to me, and I can only hope that no seeds of doubt or uselessness have been planted in any way. Take care and sleep well. I shall keep you in my prayers and trust that you shall always keep me in yours. Forever, Norman.
Ooh, what a way to end it.
And it was Jonathan wrote an edit. He edited it down.
Good.
I read that. It was like, it's like, it's the perfect mind of a psychopath. I mean, it's
Absolutely. He's so polite at the end.
Well, it's like he likes being he likes being what he is, and can you imagine, should I be a costume wearing supervillain, or should I attend company board meetings and talk about patent infringements, lawsuits, what the depreciation on assets, how that's boring. No, I want to be the supervillain. So he likes being the Green Goblin, and Norman does hate Peter Parker. I mean, there's no doubt he hates Peter Parker because somebody said, not me, but somebody said that Doc Ock is Spider-Man's greatest villain and Norman Osborn is Peter Parker's greatest villain. And I like that. I always like that because it gives both villains credit for being great villains. Yeah. Plus the fact that they both have very different reasons for being his archenemy. Norman knows that Peter is better than him and he can't stand it. And also now that the thing with Harry's death, Harry's death is in between them. But on the other hand, I believe this letter was completely sincere. When you're a supervillain, you got to have a superhero to fight.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's he going to do? Just go rob banks or whatever? That gets boring after a while too. So
JR, how does this rank in the best of all Spider-Man stories? Is this in the top 10?
No, it's not, but it is in the top 25.
Okay. That's fair.
One of these, cause I always intended before I, stopped writing for various reasons, burnout and it takes too long. And plus, you gave me this wonderful forum, but I had always intended to do another, at the top 25, I had the top 10, but then I was going to do number 11 through 25. And I had them picked out, but this was one of them. I don't know where it fell. And usually it's kind of like on, I probably would have said, none of these are in particular order. Just take them as a lump. They're the next 15 greatest stories. But this would have been in that. This has been a top 25.
I have a proposition for you then live on the air here. Next summer, let's do JR's top 25.
Ooh.
There's your Spider History episode, the top 25 Spider-Man stories of all time.
It might be funnier though. It might be funnier to do the worst ones, but the problem is worst.
Second episode. Let's do that episode too. But
the thing is, there's no mystery about it now. I mean, my worst story is everybody's worst story. There's no, that's an interesting take. No,
one more day. We know what number one is, but let's hear the other 24. That'd be fun. Yeah. But I want to hear your best and your worst. Let's do that next summer. What do you think?
Well, okay.
All right. Why not? Spider History. I convinced him.
I had a list.
Well, you got until next summer to do it. It's all good.
No, that's not the list. Here we go. We were taking this is a card I think we did last year at the end of last year.
Okay.
We took Marvel Knight Spider-Man. It's number one. Somebody put that.
We should do that. But hey, chat. Since this is our last episode of the year for Spider History, I want you in chat to tell us what you want us to review in 2025. I just pitched 2 ideas, so we're up to we got March to December to fill out. So what would you like to see JR and I talk about in 2025? But here's what JR read them what they told us in 2023.
This is what people we did this at the end of last year, and this is what people said they wanted. Some I have done, and some I want to do, and others I said I don't know what I can do with that. But anyway, Marvel Knight Spider-Man. I fulfilled your request. Spirits of the Earth. That's the one I think where they go to Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah, that one might be.
I don't think we've done that one yet.
No, we've not. We did Fear
Yeah.
Itself. That was
That's it.
that was another prior recommendation. Someone wanted me to do Fear Itself, and I got lucky. I'd never bought it before, but I found it in the bargain bin and got it, and we did it.
That was Ross Andrews' last drawing of Spider-Man before he passed away.
Round Robin Sidekick's Revenge. I don't know why somebody likes that. I hated all those stories.
I did too, but
actually it's probably a perfect, but I always use this. I always brought this up because it's a perfect reason why I hated the 90s, because all this, it was like, they're always big, loud 4 to 6 part stories with too many.
Is that the one with Nova and Darkhawk and Moon Knight and Night Thrasher and
What Ifs? Someone wanted me to do my favorite What Ifs. That's a really good one. Really good idea. It's the Spidey Human Torch miniseries by Dan Slott. Yeah. Another good idea. Spidey's Tiny Adventures.
Oh, and
then the Outlaws. Someone wanted me to do the Outlaws story where he forms out.
Web 50.
Out. Yeah. Yeah. And then the Evil That Men Do.
You got to do that one next year.
Yeah, and I take all suggestions. I mean, I know why people, people like these stories for a reason. And sometimes I'm able to go into something and say, hey, I can really do something with this that I didn't. That's why I used to let Brad pick out the months when we were doing months, because he would pick out months and stories that I would never even dream of doing. And I could have a lot of fun with. And others, it's like, I can't do a damn thing with this. One of them was like the Michelini issues. I think Brad had given me a month. And the reason I didn't choose that month was because I read Amazing Spider-Man. It was like 290 something. And I just sat there and I said, I can't do anything with this. Nothing. But anyway, I will tell you, and again, at my age, nothing is ever guaranteed. In fact, I'm being told by the Disease Digestive Center that it's time for my next colonoscopy. But
Lord,
if we are all here and sane and healthy, I can almost guarantee you that next year you will get the Evil That Men Do, the Spidey Torch miniseries, the What Ifs. There are a couple of really good What Ifs. Most of them are bad. The
ones that come to mind from the first volume are the What If Aunt May Died and Uncle Ben Lived.
That is the best.
With Ron Friends on art.
And Peter Gillis was the writer.
Yep. And you got What If the Clone Lived? And then you got What If he went into Showbiz, I think.
That's right. What if he had stopped the burglar?
And then the Fantastic Four. Volume 2, I like What If He Kept the Symbiote. I like that.
Well, yeah, he died. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I hated it a lot. Like the one where Craven really killed him and then Craven winds up eating his body. I hated that one.
Hey, Chi-Town's in the house. What's going on, Chi-Town? He wants to know if we ever did the Cosmic Spider-Man story or Torment by McFarlane. Torment by McFarlane would be good. We
actually did touch on those, but we were doing months and not storylines.
We could tackle it. That'd be fun.
So it's not beyond the realm that we might do that, again, but there's many more stories I think that people want to do or that I would prefer to do.
Was Cosmic when we were doing months?
Yeah, we were. It was, like the one where, because like the Hulk, he punched the Hulk into outer space.
I love that one.
Yeah, and so we were, and also I think one issue he was fighting Graviton, because that was
those are the web issues. Yeah,
that was also when.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah, but the villains traded. I think the villains traded heroes, and I think that intermingled with the Cosmic storyline. Maybe
Acts of Vengeance. Yes, Acts of Vengeance was going on right when Cosmic was going on.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on some of those, and I think we did do some of the one or two of the Torment issues in an appropriate month, but because I know we've made fun of the Doom, and
it'd be funny, kind of like with this month on an anniversary issue. So what year did Spider-Man 1 come out? 1991? No, or 1990?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that'd be fun to do.
Yeah, but I never thought I would do Secret Wars. We did, and
we did that this year.
But the 40th anniversary came along, and we were able to con George.
Trayvon wants to know about 90s Mark Bagley Spider-Man comics. If we do that the side.
If we ever do the
sidekick,
sidekicks range,
that's Mark Bagley.
I mean, Bagley did a lot of the. I mean, Bagley's a great artist. I mean, no doubt about it. We have done. I'm trying to think if I did any of the. Well, the Harry Osborn ones were in spectacular, and Bagley was on amazing. I tell you, that's a stretch because I just did not like most of the '90s. I really didn't. And if
you'd have to get into some clone stuff if we do much Bagley.
Well,
you know what? If we ever do, what about ASM 400? That's a Bagley.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just when I just think there are a lot of other ones that I would rather do.
Evil That Men Do sounds good for Spider history.
Yeah, it is because it's such a cluster. It actually started out with promise, and it had a real good cliffhanger, and then Kevin Smith stopped.
He did, and then he waited 3 years to wrap it up, and it wasn't worth
3 years because I remember doing my annual Spider year in review, and I would get to the Evil That Men Do, and I for 2 years in a row, I said, I don't know, I don't care, and neither should you.
And then he wants us to go live on New Year's and do the top 20. No, we're good.
Folks, you can't get me to stay up past New Year. I mean, I'm surprised.
Wouldn't that be funny if and our number one is, we wait till the ball drops.
But I'm surprised I'm still up now. See, you guys got me all excited talking about one of my top.
Oh, okay. Here comes the chat. Let's see. Tangled Web issues. Eric V wants some of those.
I'm trying to, actually we have done, I know we did the one with Tombstone because we had
he was in prison.
Yeah, he was in prison.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Was one of the funny ones because, because of things like Vaseline. There
was a good one towards the end with Silver Sable and Ron Friends and Tom DeFalco came back. Towards the end of that was a good one.
Actually, one of the best ones was written by Zeb Wells. Behind the mustache with I think it was Entangled. J. Jonah Jameson story.
Oh, I don't remember that one that well.
Yeah, I think Zeb.
Vinkman says I like the what if the Punisher killed Spider-Man solely for the scene where the Vulture takes Frank to a party where all the Spider-Man villains were celebrating his death and Frank just blows them all away.
Yep.
I don't remember that one. That was.
It was a decent story. It started out it was what if the Punisher killed Daredevil, and what had happened was the Punisher killed Daredevil, and Spider-Man came after the Punisher, but Spider-Man. I don't know. He got careless, and the Punisher shot him up, and he went into the hospital. Spidey went into the hospital, and and then the Kingpin told him, and then Silvermane's family killed Aunt May, and I don't know. But I did kind of like that story. It wasn't a great story, but it also was a story that kind of realistically showed you that if these people really existed, there'd be a high body count on both sides. Nobody would be getting out of that alive.
It'd be like The Boys.
Yeah, nobody.
Heroing 2.0. Would you consider doing 2099 issues? If not, how about the ones leading up to the wedding with the Spider Slayers? But Alistair Smythe, yeah.
The first, I tell you, the only Spidey 2099 I would consider doing is the first year, because I think I have the entire run except for a couple of issues.
What about the one where he teams up with the OG Spider-Man?
Oh, but I think we might have done that, but I'd have to go back and look. Yeah. We might have, but no, the first year I liked the first year, and I bought the first year. The rest of them I got in the dollar rack or the 7 for $1, thing at the comic shop. But I liked the first year because it was a lot of it was world building. You were, Peter David, and he was building this future world, and you were seeing how this future world worked. And who the sides were, and then after a year, it kind of started getting just conventional superhero, supervillain.
And then they flood the world, and they all go to Gilligan's Island. And then they become gods or something in the Manifest Destiny one shot.
Actually,
something happens.
No, I don't think they become gods, but Miguel lives. I mean, what is it? Oh, Miguel for whatever reason, he becomes worthy of picking up Thor's hammer, and he winds up living like to be 1,000 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
And in the year 3000, they find the original Captain America again. You know, but that's kind of been retconned out of existence.
It has, because every time they go to the well, it's always
but
always
I like the first year when we were seeing this new world, you know, like you had the new New York, you know, which was all
Nueva New York, right?
Yeah, Nueva New York, which was all, you know, bright, shiny, rich people. And then you had old New York, which was it wasn't underground, but the new city was on top of it. They called it downtown, and it was the old New York Manhattan. And of course, that was all slums and crime, and you know,
cool.
And the Green Goblin. He had a Green Goblin, but the Green Goblin was a woman, and it was actually he had a woman priest, Father Jennifer, and it was her, you know, and that was but when he left the title, they retconned that and changed it to that it was his brother. And then I think they retconned that.
And then Peter David came back and retconned the retcon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
now we find out that Norman is still alive in 2099.
Well, and Bagley Spider Slayer storyline, that was in the summer of ASM when they shipped twice a month like they do now. I remember those. Eric V suggests that you do top 5 per decade episodes. The top 5 Spider-Man stories from the 60s to the 2010s. Gary in the Frozen has a question for JR. If the Green Goblin hated Spider-Man, why would Norman want Peter to be his heir, like in Revenge of the Green Goblin and Death in the Family?
Well, because ultimately, Peter is the son he wishes he had. I mean, he can love him and hate him at the same time. I mean, it's like a marriage. You know? No, I mean, you know, Norman, you know, you kind of have to. Norman wanted an heir, and he never felt that Harry was worthy of the Osborn name. You know, I mean, you know, it's a classic story. You know, I mean, the king is going to die, and he thinks his son is not. You know, he thinks his son is too weak or whatever. And but you know, it's the king. You know, the king wants the prince to take over. And he wants the prince to be strong and everything. And, you know, in this particular time, the prince is a very weak, scared boy. And he always really was. That's why Harry as the Green Goblin, a lot of people liked it, like my best friend being my worst enemy. But Harry was not a criminal. You know, he wasn't a criminal and he wasn't evil. He was screwed up and a recovering drug addict. But, you know, and then Norman, just like the guy who is the most worthy to succeed me is the one I've been fighting all these years. So he thought he would be, if I could turn him, he would be a tremendous asset and far more valuable than whatever ego boost I got out of killing him. Mm-hmm. You know, and then there's that yin yang Joker Batman, you know, you complete me, you know, the Joker doesn't want a world without Batman. You know, it's they you know,
you saw what happens. The movie bombs.
Yeah. Or the Joker goes to work at the DMV. I think that was an actual story, wasn't it? The Joker kills Batman, and then it's like, well, what the hell have I done? What am I going to do now? You know, and then he says, I'm going to, you know, he's going to go where I can torture people the most. So he goes to work at the DMV.
Hey, Mr. Comics has a question. He'd love to see your interpretation of the Spider Society series. That's coming out right now.
No, I'm not having it. I wouldn't use any of that to wipe my ass with.
I was also reading the Green Goblin, Gwen Stacy, and the Evil Aunt May.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. The Spider Society. That's stupid. It's all stupid.
Chi-Town suggests Amazing Mary Jane for 5 issues.
I haven't read any of those.
Well, that was around when Spencer came, Nick Spencer.
Yeah, it was, because Mary Jane was out, and I think Mysterio was a supporting character.
Yep.
Amazing Mary Jane.
Gary in the Frozen says, "Thanks for answering. Great show as always." So, do you give all those issues A's or B's, A and B's, or the overall story is in your top 25?
It's in the top 25. The story collectively would get an A. Yeah, it'd be a mixture of A's and B's. Yeah. A lot of B's.
There's no stinker in it. I don't think.
No, there's not. There isn't.
No.
I mean, like I said, there's a lot of bad plotting. I mean, there's some dumb plotting. I mean, dumb ideas and like that would never happen, and that doesn't work. But
Scorpion hanging upside down.
Ultimately you wrap it all up. And I forget what was it. I was trying to think of what I had to say at the end, but anyway, I said, yeah, it's a big, fun, loud comic book.
It is. It's a blockbuster summer movie.
It's a comic book, and it plays on all the tropes and everything. Yeah. It's an excellent. It's fan service at its best.
Gary wants to know, will the next Spider History be recorded in December? Nope, this is it for 2024. In our opinion, we recorded 3, and we got 3 months left of the year. Yeah, we'll start it up back in January and start new episodes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. Right now, the leading candidate. This isn't certain, and sometimes it depends on if something's going on at my life. Because I've had a lot of preoccupation. That's why you haven't had a Spider History for the last few months. But I would say that if all things are okay, I would say there's a better than 50% chance it'll be the Evil at Mindu. I'd like to take another crack at that.
But JR and I are going to have several more shows throughout the year.
Yeah.
For instance, look at me in the segues. Look at this. We've got tomorrow night. We're coming back to review ASM number 952 and 953. The biggest, most brutal fight in all of Spider-Man's history, according to Nick Lowe, right? So we're going to review that one. So you're going to hear JR's opinion with that. We're going to have some friends join us for that episode. And if you're a Patreon member, stick around after. You're going to hear Spider Satellites. We're going to review all these. I think there's a Spider Society review in this one. I think. Yeah, it's right there. Kelly's going to review that one. I'm not particularly reading that one, but you got Ultimate Spider-Man number 9 and 10 we're going to review. I know George has that one. Then Chasm. You're reading this one, aren't you? Chasm, the Curse of Cain.
God. I really wish we had sales figures. I would really like to see how bad some of these have got to be doing. Some of these cannot be selling more than 10,000. They can't be.
We also have Miles Morales' 25th anniversary issue. We have another issue of Spectacular Spider-Man with Spider-Man and Miles Morales teaming up. And Dan Slott creates another Spider-Girl. Do you want to hear Kelly's opinion on this? She's going to give it tomorrow night.
I was about to say, you always try to censor me. I was about to say, you'd have to censor her.
I have not read the issue. I'm curious what Kelly thinks of Dan Slott's new Spider-Girl that is in issue number 12.
And isn't he creating a Hulkette too?
And a Hulkette. It's going to be Muppet Babies, only Spider Babies coming soon. You also have the latest issue of Spider-Gwen coming up. We got that Spider Society. Neil is going to tackle the Ultraman fights the Avengers. And we've also got Spider-Man Making It Rain Dose. Spider-Man Rain 2 is going to be the Spider Satellites. Again, if you want to hear these reviews,
garbage,
sign up. Sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/crawlspace. But wait, there's more. You get a bonus episode also if you're a Patreon member. Tyler's coming back to review the Venom War. We're going to talk about all these issues. We've got Venom War number 3. We've got Venom War Carnage, Venom War Daredevil. We got Venom War Deadpool, Venom War What If Silver Sable Had a Suit, Venom War Lethal Protectors. We've got Venom War Spider-Man, Venom War Venomous, and Venom War Vimbiotes or Vimbiotes.
Really? That's a title?
Yep. That's She-Hulk. That's She-Hulk and Hellcat and Shocker going after the zombie. Anyway, so you can check that out. Again, sign up for patreon.com. Also coming up on the Crawl Space, we're going to do a Spider History. Spider Jeopardy that was postponed from last year. That's probably coming up in November and December. We're going to have a gift exchange. What am I giving JR? What is he giving me? The finger.
about to say, have to look on, get on Etsy and see all the weird stuff.
I know. Let's see. JR, Mary wants to know your thoughts on Ultimate Spider-Man. We kind of gave it earlier in the show.
Yeah, I gave it earlier, but I'll tell you, I was intrigued by it. I liked some of the ideas, but it's getting old. I mean, because the story's not moving. Spider-Man's not fighting anybody. He's just like having coffee with Harry, and half of the story is Ben and Jonah putting together the paper. Yeah. It just, I mean, I like some of the ideas. I like the idea of an older. I mean, obviously, I like the idea of Peter being married and having children. Boy and a girl. It's exactly. But I like. I kind of like that they're doing a different twist. Norman was out of the picture, but I think his voice is coming back. But I like Harry as an adult armored Green Goblin trying to do good, and I know he's going to F it up.
What do you think of the Spider-Man suit that's like that talks to him like a symbiote?
No.
Yeah, I don't.
Doc Ock is so far not a villain. I kind of like that. I mean, I kind of like that, but they were given the hints that they're going to go in a different direction, but it's just not going anywhere. And we're not getting good Spider-Man fights. Spider-Man's not beating anybody. He's not, he's
going up against the Sinister Six, the Felicia's dad and Raven and several people.
It just, it had promise, but it just quickly it's quickly getting old, unfortunately.
Still better than ASM though, right?
Well, I'm certainly more interested in reading the next issue of that than I am ASM.
Yeah. All right, chat. Thanks for joining us for the last 3 hours. I'm sorry, our audio listeners. Thanks for listening to us for the last 3 months. JR and I enjoy this. We enjoy going back to the Spider history and sharing it with you all. So thank you so much.
Thanks for watching and for all the questions.
No doubt. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will be back tomorrow night, JR and I, and some more friends. So see you tomorrow night, everybody.